Thank you for the introduction and good morning to all of you. So it's nice to be here and having this audience to talk to. And of course, I've been with different forums with Mr. Jayantha Fernando and following his speech. So most of the time what I find is that whenever I had to speak after him, I have left with only few things to say, because he generally covers everything that is required in legal aspect as well as in technical aspects. But hopefully in today's presentation I'll try to get into different format. When I came to know that I'll be speaking after Mr. Jayantha Fernando, then I noticed, okay, I have to come up with something to talk about, otherwise I will have nothing to do. And I would like to thank ISACA and USAID for having this session, because it is very timely and important session for all of us. With the current Sri Lankan context and everything, people are leaving and all kind of a background to keep the people and to make sure that the things are going in the right direction. This is very important. So I like the theme and the sessions breakout as well. So I have listed all the topics that are relevant. So the highlighted topic, or the empowering SME through synergy of data protection, cybersecurity and innovation. Of course, we need to find out the synergy between these different areas to come out of this situation and to make sure Sri Lanka would prosper in the future. And of course, our session is on the recent regulation introduced for data protection. Yes, that is important to come up to a certain level in the world standard in this cyber world. So Jayantha covered that part very nicely, so that's good on that line. So I will try to talk about the implementation strategies and challenges in data protection, not specifically for this Sri Lankan context, but in general, because what I work and my work area as of now is in a different area, or in a global perspective. So I'm working for a company called Nagarro. It's a global digital engineering company. So apart from that, we'll leave it for you to figure it out what it is. So I would start with this small and medium-sized enterprises, and within Sri Lankan context or in worldwide, the definition is also very diverse, depending on the country and the laws and legal representations that they have. So in simple terms, I have put into several points, like it's small and medium. By the name itself, it's small. So the small is a relative measurement. In Sri Lanka and elsewhere, the small and medium-sized enterprise, the size is different. And of course, when the organizations are small, you are much more flexible to make changes, because if you are a large organization, to make a change, it takes time to go through the entire organization to educate all the staff members and so on. But adapting into new things also much more easy in a small and medium size enterprise. So that is an advantage that we can talk about. And of course, rapid decision making within the organizations is also there. And of course, small and medium enterprises, when I search about some of the details, when it is small, they are very passionate about their job, rather than a large organization where whatever you do, the organization will thrive. But if you are a small organization, you have to work hard really to get the organization up to a certain speed and level within the country's level or the international level. And of course, it's customer oriented. Look for a customers and find out what it is, and to cater what is customer is requiring. If you are a big player, big organization, you can say, okay, this is what we have. If you want it, you can take it. But if you are a small organization, you try to cater for the customer. So perspective of different organization levels. And of course, it has to be innovative. I guess in the third session, we will be talking about a lot. So I'll leave it for you. And why do we need this regulation? Of course, Jayantha highlighted few points. And just to summarize them in these 4 points, of course, it's a compliance requirement. When you have data protection or any other regulation that you are supposed to follow in your organizations, is a compliance requirement, or else, and it also brings out the confidence in customers to come up with a say business, if you are doing business with the organization which is compliant to a particular regulation, then you know, okay, these people are up to a standard, they do protect this data and information in a proper manner, they have all the controls necessary to follow that path. So in that case, the customer will have much more confidence in working with this organization and doing business with them. So that's why we need to follow these regulations. And of course, it manages the risks as well, depending on what type of a business we are doing. Not only the risk from the cyberspace per se, but all the other business risks also you can minimize based on this regulatory compliance. And of course, if you are a small competitor and you have other competitors to work with in your organization level, if you are compliant, then you have obviously a competitive advantage over your competitors. So that's why we need to follow these regulations and adhere to these regulations and different acts as well, so that you have a much more advantage in the business world. All right, when you want to discuss about these implementation strategies, I have listed 6 points where it is not very long, but I have a bit of a detail in the next few slides. Just to summarize on these implementation strategies of following any regulation, Data Protection Act or any other regulations, conducting a data audit within the organization you have to do so that you can find out, okay, what are the data you collect and how do you process and so on. And of course, you need to have a data protection officer within your organization, so you know that within the organization, within the small business, whom to contact in case of a data protection or a data breach issue, and backup plans and so on and so forth. And of course, implementing appropriate security measures and implementing policies and procedures. Those are the important part where within the organization, depending on what type of a business you do and what are the policies you need to have, some procedures you need to follow based on where you are and how you work. Because in today's context, most organizations would like to work from home or from different places. They don't come to the office as usual, so your data is in different places. You carry your laptop home, and how do you protect that, and what are the policies for that, and so on. And of course, training of employees, which is something that I've been working with my previous employment at Sri Lanka CERT. I've been training employees in different organizations, different sectors in many areas on safe use of internet and safe use of technology. Because although we have all the technological things implemented, but if the end user is not aware of it and not 100% conversant of the things what they do, then you are in trouble. And of course, conducting regular reviews is an important part as well in the implementation strategies. For a simple reason, the technology is evolving very much. So you need to follow relevant updates and upgrades that happens all over the world to follow with the new technological advancements. So once you are compliant today and you have all the things ready for today, does not mean that tomorrow or day after you will be still compliant and you are 100% foolproof. So it is a continuous process that you need to follow. So if I just wanted to highlight few of those things that discussed in the previous slide. So the conducting a data audit, the audit for data, where what you collect, where you store, and how do you process. So this will be a very interesting topic, because most of the time in most of the organization, they do have different ways of collecting information and storing information. Also, you have this encryption and all kind of technical things that you can do to make sure that the data is secure. And communication channels, you have VPNs and all other technical things. You can say, okay, my data communication channels are much more secure. But at the same time, you need to make sure that your data processing part is also secure. So it might be in your own computer, it might be in a cloud environment. How do you do the processing? And at the processing time, whether it is secure. So that's a different technical area where people talk about confidential computing. How do you protect data while it is being processed? Because whatever the encryption you have while you are storing, when you do the processing, it has to be decrypted and it's in clear text. So how do you protect that part? So all kind of things might not be thought about in small and medium enterprises, but something to look for. And of course, appointing data protection officer, we mentioned that it has to be done so that you know in case whom to contact and to maintain the compliance requirements done in a proper manner. And of course, implementing appropriate security measures, as I discussed earlier, protect personal data from unauthorized access, loss or destruction. So it can be of different tasks. As I mentioned, the people tend to work from home, work from anywhere. How do you protect devices and data in those devices? Policies, procedures, and training of employees also we mentioned. Just to go into a bit of a detail of this, the staff members should be aware, or the employees should be aware why we need to adhere to these different say policies and regulations and so on. Sometimes when you have the access control and all kind of a thing, people say, okay, this is office where we always come in and go out, so why do we need to have all of these procedures and things implemented? So simple reason is for the regulatory compliance, yes, it's a one part of it, but to make the confidence onto the other parties to say, okay, yes, we do follow these processes and your data and information is protected in a proper manner. So that's what the basic understanding that we need to have. And when we go into the challenges of these implementations, lack of resources in different, when you say resources, it might be on different angles as well. And of course, limited expertise, inadequate IT infrastructure. I will come into that in the previous slide with little bit more detail. And difficulty in managing data, and lack of awareness and compliance with multiple regulations. So we'll move into a little bit of details on each of those topics. Lack of resources, financial, it could be technical and human. So I guess in the forum here, you are lucky because we have a organization who will be supporting you in financially getting this regulation implemented and so on. So that's a good thing. And of course, technical things also, you can think, okay, technically are we good enough, or do we have enough technical capabilities to handle this? And of course, to technical gadgets and things is one part, and the people to manage it is another part of it. So human resource as well as the technical resources. And of course, in a small organization, to manage everything and have dedicated staff will be a challenging task. Of course, you might think, okay, organization is small, do we need to have all of these data protection officers, CISO or security officers and so on to maintain the cybersecurity part of it, to look after it, and the IT staff, a separate set of people. So it's going to be difficult. But we'll discuss some of the alternatives that you can have as well. And limited expertise, the simple example that I can tell you is on this lack of resources and lack of enterprises in an example. Say all of us might be able to have a saw and cut some wood and everything that we can do. And also we know how to put up a wire and put up a bulb and everything. So I mean, if there's a, say light is not working, so we can change the bulb and it should not be a big problem. But that, and also you might have all the tools and things available at your home as well. But that does not mean that you can build the entire house by yourself and do the electrical wiring by yourself. So you need to have some kind of expertise, expert people to handle that part. So that is some kind of a example that you can bring in here, because we have different regulations, different IT infrastructures and so on to maintain. But are we going to have all the experts within your organization itself, or are we going to get it from a third party or a separate organization who can support it continuously while you can maintain your business angle and business motivations in a proper clear mind? Because you are outsourcing. Even Mr. Jayantha Fernando highlighted that outsourcing this kind of a thing is also a trend and a working model, because then you can focus on your business while you're working. So the IT infrastructure also, we can think of it, okay, do we need to have all the IT infrastructure in-house, maintained by our internal IT staff members itself, or are we going to give it to a third party or a cloud service provider to get it done? So if you are going to for a cloud service provider, and then you might have a obvious second thought, okay, is my data protected if I am putting into the cloud? Is it not protected? If general term is like, okay, if you are in the cloud, then you don't know where it is, but you can specify, yes, my data should be within Sri Lankan geographical boundary or else in some other country. So if you know where your data is and what are the safeguards and the protection mechanisms that they have followed, then you can trust that particular supplier to provide that service to you as well. And difficulty in managing data, because more and more customers and clients that you have means you have lots of data to process and to store and manage. And if you don't have the scalability of your network to scale up and scale down whenever it is required, if you're having it in house and on premise, within your premises itself, scaling up, scaling down will be a bit difficult. But if you go for a cloud service provider, they will provide you the easy scaling up, scaling down option as well. So that is something that you can think of when you wanted to think of this managing information that you have. And of course, regulatory lack of awareness, the regulatory requirements and things might be a bit complex with legal terms and so on, so that you don't know to which regulation you are supposed to follow, because your business might be running into different sectors of the businesses, maybe banking sector, finance sector, maybe some food delivery kind of a sector. So all of those, to which regulation I need to follow, or which regulation I need to be abide by. So all of those, and to make it much more complex, compliance with multiple regulations. So within Sri Lanka, you have a certain number of regulations that you need to follow. And if you are providing a service to a foreign customers, foreign clients, then of course they might be in a different geography where they have different data protection and data regulations and acts. So if it comes into Sri Lanka, and if you are taking that data into Sri Lanka and try to process it, then how do you going to manage that part? So are you going to follow the Sri Lankan law, or are you going to follow the that particular foreign country laws and regulations? So to which you need to abide by. So those are the kind of things that you need to think of it. Of course, mapping or having the Data Protection Act within Sri Lanka compatible with other countries' laws might make it much more easy and much more convenient for you to abide by any of these regulations as well. Of course, as I mentioned, these 6 points or the challenges that you come across can be addressed with service providers if you are not able to do it by yourself as a small and medium enterprise. You can come up with a service provider who can provide you all of these facilities for you, so that you don't have to worry about too much, but you can get it done or make it sure that you are 100% compliant and compliant on that particular line. So some of the laws and regulations which are globally accepted and which you are following as well might be much more useful for you to come up with a high standard within your organization, so that what it does is for you to, whenever you go and do businesses with other organizations, other countries, and if you are having say separate branches in different countries and so on, then you need to abide by different rules in different countries, of course, but it will give you some advantages in doing businesses with worldwide environment. Because the cyberspace, of course, technically you can say there are boundaries, but when you think of it in cyberspace, there are no boundaries. So you are in a global network, global business area, where you might be sitting in Sri Lanka. So this cyberspace and the cyber world, what it gives you is an opportunity to work with and do business with all over the world. But if you have the correct data protection and other regulations and compliance and so on, then it is much more easy for you to do businesses in other parts of the world without much trouble. So that's the highlighting point that I wanted to give out of this presentation. And looking into the future, as I mentioned, the technology is evolving, changing all the time. So you might be having the cloud service providers and other services provided today, but maybe 5 years down the line, you might have totally different things. So you need to ready for changes as well. And cybersecurity threat landscape is also evolving, it is changing. So the things that you need to address or fight against will be different in, say, 2-3 days time even. Forget about in 1 year's time or 2 years time what will happen. And of course, artificial intelligence is another thing that people are always talking about. And people were thinking, okay, it might come in next 2-3 years, but it has already here. So we are already dealing with artificial intelligence. So how do we incorporate this artificial intelligence into your systems and, say, business processes will make sure that you have a better competitive advantage compared to your competitors, so that you can go ahead and do whatever the say businesses you wanted to do. All right, that's are the things that I wanted to highlight in my presentation. So hope that it will give you some insight into what you need to look for and what are the options that are available for you. And maybe during the panel discussion, we can ask questions and we can come up with some other thoughts on this particular line. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.